horror lovers. Welcome back to another episode of Deducation, the Teachers Talking Terror podcast, where Courtney and I, we're past introductions at this point. People know who we are.
Yes,
we're on episode 3. We're in episode 3, where people know. But no, we take a movie and we watch it, and of course it's a horror film, and then we talk about what it's like to be a teacher in this environment. And this week was another one of your selections. What did you want to watch this week?
The Terrifier.
Terrifier, a movie that we will be getting into, but I think it's fun first. How was this a movie you'd heard of prior to? I kind of dumb. Was this a movie you've heard of prior to hearing about it? That's not really what I mean, but like, what was this introduction to you?
So my introduction was we were doing drills at volleyball, and I went over and stood by some girls because they were doing more talking than working, in hopes that they would start working, and they're talking about the scariest movies they've ever seen, and they went to go see Scream, and Terrifier popped up on the list.
Which is funny because you go that way to redirect their efforts, but once you realize they're talking about your podcast topic, then you're like, okay, well, I'll listen for a moment before I get them back. I've done that too. You go to get kids back on task, and then you realize you kind of like what they're talking about. So
yeah, I was like, well, okay, all right, now let's get back to passing and calling the ball.
Yeah. So this was the scariest movie these girls had ever seen.
Yes, and I actually asked them why they thought it was the scariest movie, and because he stalked girls. That was their reasoning. I
have these same girls in one of my classes, and had the same conversation after we had talked. I went, because of course we'll find out, I'm not a big fan of this movie, but we'll get to that as we go along. And so I'd ask them the same thing, like, what's scary? And one of them, PJ, she's like, because it's so real. And I'm like, I go, what kind of planet do you live on that this is real?
Yeah.
Well, it could totally happen. I'm like, again, in what scenario do you think this actually happens? And she's like, but it just could. And I'm like, no, it couldn't. No, because as soon as someone dressed like that, I don't care if it's Halloween or not. As soon as a cat dressed like that walks through the door of a diner and just starts acting all creepy without ordering, he's going to get bounced.
Yes. Yes.
But they're like, oh my God, it was so scary. And I'm like, it wasn't scary. It was just gory and gross. And they're like, but it's so scary. And then, of course, in my mind, I'm like, oh, I can introduce you to scary. Uh-huh. And so I did. I directed them towards a couple of movies that I thought, watch this one and it'll get you. Of course, they were all pumped to go watch it. They come back the next day, and another student was like, I got like 10 minutes into it and turned it off because I was bored. And I'm like, okay, you gave it 10 minutes. You gave a 90-minute movie 10 minutes and bailed. Like, okay. So that's the clientele we're working with. And this movie does jump right into it.
Yes, it does.
And so, we start off terrified. We start with that TV interview. Mm-hmm. Where this woman's like in the dark shadows, because she's so horrific looking. She's a survivor of the attack. And so we've got the Monica Brown is I know a Monica Brown. Do you know?
I do. I was going to say, I do
too. So there's a Monica Brown that's the TV anchor, the TV talk show host that's talking to this. She's severely disfigured. We haven't seen her face. But she's a sole survivor from a previous Halloween. Now, if this is your first time watching it, you don't really know the timeline of things yet. You don't know who they're interviewing, but when you finally see her revealed, she's very grotesque.
Yes.
Very grotesque. Matter of fact, honestly, more grotesque than I thought she would be based on how she got that way.
Yeah.
She looked more straight like burn victim.
Agreed. For the 30 seconds that it happened to her, she was very torn apart.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so the host mentions that this is where we get our story. She talks about the killer Art the Clown and how he's disappeared from the morgue and he might be still out. It's your trope. It's your it's your Jason, your Freddy, your Michael Myers. It's the whole they're never gone, they're never down.
Mm-hmm.
Although she insists, no, he's dead. I saw it happen. But somebody's watching this show because again, it's on TV, and we discover that it's Art the Clown watching this television broadcast because apparently he still owns property or rents out a warehouse.
Something.
I've always wondered where the killers in these movies like shack up. Like in the real world, you've got to pay mortgage or rent. Like you're gonna have bills. Like he's got electricity here. So what does his electric bill come to? Like Art the Clown? Like how does he pay this thing? But so he's preparing for another night out. Art the Clown is, and so this is the show's over. He kicks the TV, shatters it, and then we cut backstage where Monica's on the phone with her boyfriend. What happens to the host of the show while she's backstage acting very professional?
Yeah, as she's just trash talking of how this is going to get views because the guest was so ugly that she couldn't believe it, and the clothes behind her start to shake a little bit. So she walks over to check them, and this is our first jump scare.
Mm-hmm. Did it get you?
It didn't.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. There were some that got me pretty good.
Yeah.
But this one didn't. And your television guest speaker popped out from the clothes and just plucks her eyes out.
Yeah, gouges them right out.
Yeah, I don't even know if it'd be like pluck. Like her fingers just go straight into, and she's just sitting there laughing about it.
Yeah, just laughing. And so that's how the movie starts. We start with a murder that's not Art the Clown, but we see Art the Clown preparing for his night out.
Yes.
And this is where the timeline gets goofy for us, the viewer. It plays itself out, but we're Halloween night again, and we have two. I don't want to call them actresses because I think actresses have some sort of relationship with the craft of acting, and these two girls did not.
These are just two college girls they found out on the road.
Yeah, these are
dressed up for Halloween.
Yeah, friends of the director, I'm sure. More than likely, probably family members of the director. Tara and Dawn, they leave a Halloween party, and they're drunk because they just keep saying they're drunk. Yeah. They don't actually act drunk. They don't.
No, they actually walk a pretty straight line and talk pretty well for being as drunk as they are.
There's no slurred speech. There's no fumbling around. It's just, I am so drunk, and it's so believable because of their insane acting chops. So to be fair, though, this movie did have a budget of like $100,000. And so you're not going to be, and I think all of it was spent on special effects. So you're not gonna get too much bang for your buck with 100,000K. And so they're headed back to Dawn's car. They have this petty little argument over who should be driving, who's the less drunk, and then finally, I don't even know which one's which. Dawn's the blonde. Dawn's the scarecrow.
And Tara, I don't even know what Tara was.
I don't know. Terrified, I guess.
Yeah.
Get it? They see a strange man in a clown costume. Then Tara has an idea. Hey, I know this late night pizza joint. Let's go sober up. So they go to a pizza joint.
And that's the smartest thing, the only smart thing she did all the movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Never see him. They never even eat.
No.
I never see him eating. They just go sit in this pizza joint. We do get the benefit of seeing Tara's iPhone go dead with a battery screen I've never seen on my iPhone.
Yeah.
It's your very blatant. It just flashes the dead battery symbol at you. That doesn't happen on an iPhone. But whatever. Movie magic. And then who comes into the pizzeria?
Art the Clown.
Art the Clown. This is a busy night at the pizzeria because they're handling phone calls and making pizzas, and it's clearly late because they're talking about how late it is. And so the girls... Tara's really creeped out by Art.
Yes.
He just sits at the table across from her and just stares at her. Dawn, who clearly is still drunk because she keeps saying so. And she's definitely the more flirty of the two.
Yeah, most definitely.
She hops up and starts taking selfies with Art, who he just keeps making faces at Tara. I mean, he's got a creepy look. I'll give him that.
Yes, and he's even creepier because he hasn't said a single word yet.
Right.
Which
So it's
is, not... that is kind of creepy.
Yeah, a lot of people, when they put scary clown, they go immediately to Pennywise. And they think, or as most kids say, it. They just refer to the clown by the title of the movie. It's It. His name's It. And so I do love Halloween when the little kids walk through school and like, what are you dressed up as? It? And I'm like, okay. Waiting for a kid to like actually be wearing like a poster. But yeah, and he is creepy. Pennywise is creepy, but he's definitely more comical and talkative. Art definitely has the look of somebody who did his own makeup.
Yes.
And so he's got that going for him, I suppose. He excuses himself to go to the bathroom, and shortly afterwards he gets run out of the pizza place because he had basically made poop graffiti all over the bathroom walls.
Picasso.
Yeah.
As we call it in kindergarten.
Yes, Picasso. Do you have any budding Art the Clowns in your class?
Not this year, I don't.
So far? That's good.
So far, which is good because I don't handle that.
Oh, I would not either.
I can't.
I would like to think that by the time kindergarten rolls around, your kid can handle that.
Yeah, but I hope so.
Hope so. So they're done pretending to eat. They head back to Dawn's car. The tires are slashed. And here we meet Vicky. Okay. She actually has some decent acting ability.
Yes.
But it's also easy to say that when you've got Tara and Dawn as your competitors. So we call Vicky, that's Tara's sister. Hey, I need you to come pick us up. And she's working on some midterm or something. I don't know. It really doesn't matter. But she's going to come save them. They're sitting in the car waiting, which is a smart move. We're just going to sit here in the car and wait until Tara's got to go to the bathroom.
And she goes into this, I mean, like I said earlier, that was the only smart choice she made. Because now she's going into this creepy looking abandoned building where some guy's out front smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
And she's like begging him to let her in to go to the bathroom.
Right. And I mean, I guess I could give him that. I get where she's coming from. She's got to go to the bathroom. And he is reluctant to let her in, which to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I may be just a naive guy about this, earns him a little bit of safety points.
Yes.
That he wasn't like, oh, sure, come on in.
Yeah.
Just you and me alone.
This isn't my building to let people in.
Yeah. So I felt that earned him a little bit of credibility because he wasn't on, you didn't get the vibes that he was harmful. He was trying to push her off. Like, nope, we're not. I can't. I'm working. But she talks him into it. And like you said, he's there to exterminate. They're going to bomb the place, bug bomb the place. And the place is just disgusting.
It is.
Like top to bottom, it's just disgusting. And so he lets her in, shows where the bathroom is. Of course, it's disgusting. Tara runs into yet another character that doesn't matter. The lady with the doll.
Yeah, this lady was really weird.
Yeah.
Like, she was kind of a creep in herself. Because she's looking for... She thought that Tara was her new neighbor.
Yeah.
In this abandoned building that's going to be bombed for rats.
Yeah.
And she's still in there.
Yeah, I don't think she actually lives there. I think she hides out there.
Okay.
Because later on in the movie, when we kind of see where she's living, it's almost just like this back storage area that she's, squatted in. But Tara, another somewhat wise decision, plays along with it. Instead of being, distant and disruptive, she just, yes, I'm new here, and we will get together. I'm going to play along to get this creepy lady out of here. So while Tara and Dawn are taking care of all this stuff, what's Art doing?
He is...
Went back to the pizzeria.
Oh, yes. He went back to the pizzeria and took care of the employees that threw him out.
Yeah. 'Cause
And
the pizza cook is still trying to clean the poop out of the bathroom.
and he's like, I want overtime, or I want, a raise for this. This is so unsanitary.
And he's right.
And he is. And as he comes out because his boss wasn't answering him, and as he comes out, like, his boss's head was it on a pizza pan, or it was sitting...
he was decapitated, and his head was placed on a pizza pan.
And that's where he then runs into Art.
Yeah.
Who then takes care of him and basically butchers him.
Oh yeah. So Art is he's a destructive person here.
Yeah.
And this is really, time wise, I don't really remember how far we're into it, but we've introduced pretty much all the characters so far, and this is the first time outside of the disfigured opening where we've seen Art doing violence.
Yes.
And so, Art, he takes care of the pizza workers because, they bounced him. So, Art leaves there, and then this is where he abducts Dawn.
Yeah, she had heard that 2 pizza workers had been brutally murdered, and the car door opens, and she's like, oh my gosh, you'll never hear what I just heard on the radio. And it's Art the Clown who opened the door.
Yeah. This whole radio broadcast thing is dumb.
Yes.
Because there's absolutely no... there are 2 employees of the pizza restaurant. Both of them murdered and butchered. Neither of them calling for help. So somebody then, my guess is, somebody came into the pizzeria after Art had finished and left. Because and then saw what had happened and called 911, which is understandable. But then the radio broadcast is, it's believed that Art the Clown is be on the lookout for, and I'm like, wait a minute here. There is no way that if somebody walked into the pizzeria and saw Art doing this, he wasn't going to let them live.
No.
And so therefore, there was really no basis of reality in this radio broadcast of, be on the lookout for a clown dressed in black and white as he's believed. I'm like, why would you believe he did this? You guys think he's dead.
Exactly. Yeah, because that's what was just on the TV channel.
Yeah.
Which I guess that's, flashing forward.
Yes. Yeah. But, we haven't straightened the timeline out yet. But still, why would you think Art the Clown, why would you have a name? Why would you have a description?
The only guess is maybe the pizza worker didn't get Art the Clown written in poop off the wall yet.
Possibly, but
that's my only guess.
Yeah, I suppose that
but still,
yeah, it's still a real stretch.
Why would you go into the bathroom after seeing them brutally murdered?
We got to puke, probably. And then when you get in there and you realize that's not a sanitary place to puke. But so yes, then he hops in the car and now he's got Dawn. Mm-hmm. Tara, who's still wandering around the building because it was a very straightforward walk to the bathroom and now she can't find her way out.
Yes.
She encounters him in the building. Okay. He's chasing her around. It's a pretty suspenseful cat and mouse kind of game. She's getting away from him, and like I've talked about last week, she's getting away from him in that I'm going to run half speed and make you think I'm running full speed kind of way. So she's hiding behind cars and really not moving around a whole lot. She's working harder to keep an eye on him than she is trying to get away. And so she thinks she's got away, and he cuts her in the tent and the Achilles with a scalpel. So
yes.
She still gets away though, because she gets back up to Mike, the exterminator, and she's trying to get a hold of him. He's got headphones in, but then Art drugs her and pulls her around the corner and knocks her out. This is where I'll admit my tainted view of slashers changes here, because most slashers in horror films kill. They will either track you down, but once they get you, they aim to kill you. There aren't many that use chloroform.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if they're not based in reality. Like, you'll see, like, slashers with humans involved. They may drug you, but the person's a human. Like, he's not really a slasher, he's a serial killer. But this, like, Art the Clown thus far has not given any premise that he's, like, a human. His teeth are all messed up, like, you know, and so for him to drug her, that's my first one of, like, what? Why don't you just kill her?
Because he had a show for her.
I suppose. Anyway, I'm going to let you describe this show, because this is the scene that sticks out about this movie to the people that have seen it.
And so she then comes to after being drugged, and he has this thing under a sheet. And he pulls the sheet off, and there is Dawn hanging upside down, naked.
Almost naked. She still has on underwear.
Yes, she still has underwear on, and her mouth is duct taped.
Yes.
So she does, still have underwear on. And Tara is panicked because that's her best friend.
Yeah, and to be fair, hanging upside down is one thing, but she's hung upside down, spread eagle.
Yeah. And she is just 100% exposed right here. Mm-hmm. And Art picks up this
hacksaw.
Yeah, that is, I mean, the strongest. I guess I've never used a hacksaw, so I don't know how strong they are. But this just starts at Dawn's crotch, and it just cuts her straight in half, all the way to the tip of her skull.
Yeah, hacksaws are typically used. You can get blades for them, like, to cut metal. You know, so with the right blade, it could definitely do this. Yeah. But yeah, he just saws her right down the middle.
Enjoying it the whole time. Like, he's looking back at Tara, and he's like smiling, and meanwhile, it's like all with one hand.
Yeah. Yep. And she's not swaying back and forth. She's
no.
My tongue-in-cheek favorite part of this scene is he's a good 3/4 ways slicing her down the middle, and she's still screaming somehow. Mm-hmm. Her intestines have flopped out onto the ground. He's clearly past, like, her sternum. Yeah. He's split her rib cage, and she's still screaming. Like, I would think you are dead by that point.
Yeah, your intestines have fallen out. Like, there's nothing.
You are deceased, and yet she's still screaming. So Dawn was determined.
she was a fighter.
Yeah. And then he didn't even split her all the way. Like, he stopped.
Yeah, he stopped, like, right here.
Yeah, he turned her basically from a Y into a V. Yeah. And then left her. A lot of blood. A lot of blood in the human body. But it was pretty gross. Uh-huh. It was gross. And this is the scene after talking, because, of course, I'd seen it, talked to the class about it, and this is the scene where the girls are like, it was just so gross. I'm like, oh, no, it was gross. But, guys, it's not, like, it would definitely be scarier for a female than a male. However, it's not realistic.
It's not. Like, you're going to be fighting the whole time.
Yes.
I mean, come on. It's not going to be that easy. You're also not going to feel it after it gets to your belly button. I feel like you would have bled out already.
Yeah, you're dead. Yeah. So at this point, Art's he's put in way more effort than is necessary, because she was dead way before he got all the way to where he was going. And then we just Tara breaks free, and she escapes. And this is the second part that drives me nuts about Art. She escapes, and, like, she's gonna run, and she, like, comes up on Art, and he pulls a handgun on her and shoots her.
Yeah.
Like,
but he didn't even shoot to kill.
No, everything in his little bag of tricks at the beginning, you know, he's picking up this, like, rusty hatchet, and, you know, he's got these different weapons that he's made, and they're all just very, like, barbaric and brutal. And then he pulls a gun. Like, to me, it was like, that just was a cop-out. Like, shooting someone with a gun doesn't take effort.
No.
It's not... There's no stalking involved with a gun, because even a handgun can be a long-distance weapon.
Yep.
And so that really... Art lost a lot of brownie points for me there when he pulls a handgun. It's like... To me, it's almost like that should have been like a last resort. You couldn't take care of Tara, you had to use a gun. Needless to say, he uses a gun. He and he does. He does shoot her to death at this
Yeah.
point. Vicky's still on her way, but he shoots her down, and then just really disturbing as he like lets loose like the rest of the clip into her face, but the camera's like on her face as he's doing it, and it's just it was much. It was much.
Yeah.
So the cat lady sees it, and cat lady being the baby, like the creepy lady. That's what they credit her in the movie, is cat lady.
Cat lady.
You never see her with a cat, but they call her cat lady. So she sees it. She hunts down Mike the exterminator, begs him to call the police. Mike just thinks she's insane. Art shows up, knocks him out with a hammer. She runs off, drops her baby, runs off. And then then of course, it's like any abandoned warehouse, there's a very deep catacombs of pipes.
Yeah.
So she discovers Art. He's got her doll. She wants her child back. She starts like mothering Art. She cradles him. He starts sucking his thumb. It's
this was like really
weird,
disturbing.
Well, and
kind
like
of
unnecessary. Like
like she's like, "Have you felt no mother's love before?"
Right.
And she's like wrapping him, and then the camera shifts, and he's like side profile sucking his thumb.
Right. It's just
and it's
weird.
Like, what is going on?
It's just real
It was at this point that it was like, there is no plot to this movie.
No, I was going to say, pick a lane
None.
and stick in it, because it's just gore scene to gore scene. So Vicky shows up and tries to call Tara, but her phone's dead. Tries to call Dawn. Dawn doesn't answer, but then texts her right back. Tara's sick. Come around to the back of the building. It's Art, of course, who knows how to unlock Dawn's phone.
Yeah.
Even if she had Face ID, it's not going to work because you cut her face in half. So Vicky's now in there, and really it's just Vicky and Art. The cat lady still. So Vicky, she's lurking around looking for Tara. She discovers what she thinks is a nude-backed, injured Tara. She thinks that it's Tara laying there, struggling to move, face down, and then she sees over in the distance, another mutilated body. And who was this mutilated body?
Well, we had the cat lady. Yeah. But then we had Art with Tara's body, like.
Oh no! This was the cat lady's.
Okay, so
parts.
This was the one that she had come up to first.
Yeah.
But then as that lady flips over, she's mutilated, and then Art comes up like wearing Tara's body.
No, that was the cat lady. The body laying over in the distance. He had killed the cat lady and scalped her, and then cut off her chest.
Oh,
and it was
okay.
It was the cat lady's body he was wearing. But it looked, because she had dark hair, and so when Vicky come in, she thought it was Tara lying there injured, but before she tended to her, she sees this body laying a few feet back, missing, it was missing her scalp, missing her breasts, it was just, like, stripped away. Well, then Art sits up, and Art's wearing the scalp and the chest plate of the lady.
So that makes sense then, because when I was watching it, I thought that was Tara's body.
No, it was Art. Then
later on, when
acting as Tara's body
showed, I was like, "What in the world is going on?"
Right. Fair enough. What in the world is going on? Could be the plot. That could be the subtitle of this movie. And so Mike's coworker arrived. You know what? It's in Act 3. Let's introduce another new character. So Mike's coworker arrives and is looking for him, but then he's quickly decapitated by Art.
Yeah.
Again, it must have been a little extra money in the budget, so let's bring in our friend and use the special effects. Vicky escapes Art, but she stops because this is where she finds Tara and her. She finds Tara's corpse again, just bullet ridden.
Yeah.
Art attacks her with the the weapon's called a cat o' nine tails, and it's basically it's a small, I don't know, it's hard to really explain.
It's like a whip with little, like, almost not nails, but like maybe shards of metal on it or glass.
Yeah, it's a stick with several smaller whips on the end, but each whip has like sharpened materials. So he's got like a pair of scissors and a scalpel, like just something that's, when you whip them, it's not just going to do whip damage, it's going to do slice damage as well. Yeah. And so she gets attacked with this cat o' nine. Mike, who we thought was dead, but he's not.
Nope, he's back now.
Yeah, Mike's back. He wasn't dead. Mike shows up and knocks Art unconscious. And so Vicky and Mike leave, call 911, but before they can get away, Art shows up again and kills Mike. Mm-hmm. Like, we think, like, Art has died so many times in this movie.
Yeah.
So many times. Yeah, Vicky goes back into the garage, and then again, strike three. Art just drives through the door with a pickup truck. He takes the truck of Mike's, like, co-worker. So far we've seen this, like, supernatural being of Art, because he could die repeatedly. You know, but he also uses chloroform and a gun, and he runs people over with vehicles. So he runs Vicky over, and then just begins eating her face. Something we haven't seen him do all movie long. The police show up, but Art, in his last little trick, you know, they want him to freeze or we're gonna shoot you. Art pulls the gun out and shoots himself in the head before he can be apprehended. You know, your typical murder-suicide setup. So apparently, the morgue of this hospital is just some back, like down down a long hallway.
Yeah, it's the neighboring of this abandoned building.
Oh yeah, it's right next door. That's where the morgue is.
And so now the coroner is like, "Oh, I've seen bad things. It's going to be a bad night. Might as well, you know, let's go get some coffee." And the cops are like, "You're good luck identifying this guy by his teeth, because he is just blown apart."
Yeah. And
it opens and flashes to the body bag, and there is just, I mean, I don't even, like, that was supposed to be Art, and he's just, this person is just blown apart.
Yeah.
And then the coroner looks over to another body bag, and he goes to open it, and there's Art the Clown with absolutely no
damage done.
Nope. Done to him at all.
Perfectly fine.
And he reaches up and grabs him.
Yeah. And then now we get the wraparound from the beginning. Yes. We cut to 1 year later where Vicky, who survived the face-eating attack, has been released from the hospital and has been rehabilitated from those injuries. And so she is actually, it's discovered that she is the severely disfigured woman being interviewed at the beginning of the movie. Which it was misleading, because at the beginning you think she was attacked by Art, and then Art's about to go do the stuff that we're watching. Yeah. But like you said, the beginning of the movie is actually 1 year later. So what we see Art preparing to do when he breaks the TV is he's getting ready for another night of carnage.
Yeah, and that's why, like, he was so upset and kicked that TV in when Vicky was like, "Art the Clown is dead. I know he is. Like, I saw him die." Yeah.
And then, of course, she murdered. And that's Terrifier. There is a sequel. The sequel, this movie has a following. It has a very devoted cult following. The sequel of this movie came out last weekend and was in like 900 theaters nationwide. That's small. Wow. But it still cracked the top 10 in box office. And even though it lost a couple hundred theaters this weekend, it's down to like 700 theaters nationwide. It's still in the top 10 of box office. So the people that are seeing this, I mean, they're big fans of Art the Clown. Yeah. You know, he's got a following for sure. You You know, and plus the media comes out and like Terrifier 2 is making people pass out and vomit in the theaters. And so some people are going to go see it just based on that to see how brutal is it. I'm going to take a pass.
Yeah, I'm not wasting my money.
No. And so, but yeah, that's Terrifier, the scariest movie ever seen by a bunch of 14-year-olds. I look forward to them actually seeing something that's going to scare them.
I know. Giving them the time to, watch more than 10 minutes of something that's actually scary.
Exactly. So what are you going to put in the grade book for this one?
So I am on that generation of the jump scares get me, and this movie was definitely a lot more like, I don't want to say suspenseful because you almost knew what was coming.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit more suspenseful than the previous two, but it's getting a C-.
You know what? I'm also going to give it a C-.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I was. I was late. I was going to give it a C- anyway. I'm going to give this a C- because, mainly out of respect for what the director has done with $100,000. Making a movie is hard. Making a movie is expensive. And because the guy that directed it, Damien Leone, he also wrote the movie and he also edited the movie. And so this is clearly his vision.
Yes.
From start to finish, because while there's other pieces involved in making the movie, you first have to write the script, which he did, and then you have to direct it. So you really have to make sure that what you have down on paper makes it in the movie. And then the editing is really where you're putting the puzzle together. And by doing that as well, this really is the culmination of what we see on screen is exactly what he wanted. Because he wrote it, and then he directed it, and then he pieced it together in the editing bay. And so, $100,000. The special effects were good.
Yeah.
And I have a huge soft spot in my heart for practical effects. I think CGI done well is great. I think Jurassic Park is an amazing movie, and you couldn't make any of the superhero movies like the Marvel movies without special effects. But they also have massive budgets. And so they have the ability to pay for the great special effects. $100,000, you don't. And so by making this movie with grit and actual materials and having it physical, good for them, because it takes creativity there as well. And so that's why I give it a C-. Is it didn't scare me at all. It because I'd seen it once before. I knew what to expect, so I wasn't as grossed out this time as I was the first time. But it's just not really for me. I think he understood the assignment, and with a different teacher, I think he would have got a higher grade. But it wasn't satisfying the standards of what I have for a horror.
Yeah, there was no main idea.
No, there was definitely there was no plot. There was
Nothing.
there was no character arcs. There was no, and really, if slashers, I don't know, like, it's important that not everybody dies. And while Vicky didn't die, she just got lucky. And we talked to, I talked about it on my other show about a lot of times the final girls are just the ones that just got lucky.
Yeah.
And so, and even maybe it was last week with Nightmare on Elm Street that, Nancy was the force against Freddy. She didn't get lucky; she was prepared.
Yeah.
But in this one, Vicky got lucky that the police showed up. That's the only reason she's still alive.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. It's made. It's there. It's just not for me.
No.
So, how?
I would quit.
Yeah, educators in this environment. I don't really know if it plays in, really.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure about that at all.
Yeah, there's no school-age children at all. The cast is very small. I guess. Yeah, I don't know. You can't you can't teach common sense.
No, you can't.
And Tara and Dawn had none.
None.
I don't know. because we see, I guess the only thing would be, and this tiptoes the line well, it's outside the lines of curricular education.
Yeah.
You know, but girls like Dawn don't become that way at her age.
No.
They've been flirtatious and very disrespectful of boundaries for a long time.
Their entire life.
And so I guess that would be kind of the 2 cents is when, you know, having high school students and you being a high school coach, we know which of our kids, you know, we know which of our students could turn into Dawn.
Uh-huh.
And it's important, I guess, to be another influence, because a lot of times these kids work really hard to keep their parents out of their personal lives.
Oh, for sure, yes.
And so, but that doesn't mean that all the adults are out of their personal lives.
Yeah.
Because we see how they act at school, and their parents don't see that. And so, having conversations about self-worth and respect for yourselves, but also respecting boundaries, and not being so naive that just because you're cute doesn't mean you're safe.
Yeah.
You know, I think those conversations are important, because I don't know from experience, of course, but it's easy to assume nothing's going to happen to you until it does happen.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not mentally prepared to avoid situations like that, they're going to take advantage of you.
Yeah, like don't go act all cute with a strange guy.
Right.
Please.
Just because you're overconfident.
Yeah.
Just because you think you're, that's well put. Don't go act cute with a strange guy just because you think you're out of his league.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think Dawn did in the pizzeria. I'm cute and I'm hot and he's kind of a freak, so I'm doing him a favor with these.
Yep.
And of course, it obviously backfired.
It very much.
So Tara tried, but she was just outgunned.
Yep.
I mean, literally.
Literally outgunned.
No pun intended, but yeah, he was just too much for her.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but yeah, you can never be too safe.
No.
And there are definitely lessons that can be learned prior to having a mistake.
Yes.
You know, I guess it kind of goes in line with, you think of like a busy intersection without stop signs. You know, you don't have to put stop signs in once an accident happens. Exactly.
Yeah, be proactive.
If you recognize that there is a need for stop signs, put them in. And so, same thing here. You know, that these girls, any student can be proactive. They can do what they need to do to minimize the risk involved. And so there you go. I guess there's your lesson. But yeah, other than that, it was a real stretch for this one.
It was like, I was thinking like, okay, nothing has even been shown in the school setting. And I was like...
And there aren't any kids.
No. So I was like, this is... Yeah. I'm like...
I guess we could have gone the route of like... English teachers out there, really push the importance of a plot. Character development, something, because don't leave it completely to the art department to tell the story.
Yeah, please don't.
Yeah, because that's what has happened here. So, all right, that's Terrifier. Got that out of our system. There you go. It's our first low. It's our first low achieving student.
It is.
And again, once again, I'm kind of happy that you weren't on board with it. Each week, I think we're finding more of our zen in terms of what we like. I know there's going to be some that we differ on, but we're pretty much 3 for 3 with how we would evaluate these movies, which is good. Next week, we're going to have our first guest.
I'm really excited to see how that goes.
I am too. Not only are we going to have a guest, but we're going to have a special guest.
Yeah.
Because this is a horror podcast, and we're going to have a witch. We have a witch as a guest, and so that's exciting. We're gonna have Delaney on, and we let her pick her movie, and she had run some by me. She goes, "Well, there's She goes, there's The Witch, which is a great movie, by the way.
I haven't seen it, if you're not surprised.
I'm not. Hopefully we cover that at some point. It's a slow burn, but it's so good. She said there's The Witch, and there's a couple others she spit out that I've seen, one that I haven't, and I'm like, okay. She goes, but then I thought about The Craft. She goes, but I just don't think it's as. She goes, I don't think it's as much of a horror film as what you guys are covering. I'm like, it's absolutely horror. Like you got 4 girls in high school that like turn themselves into witches. Of course, it's a horror film. And so she's like, okay, let's do that one. She goes, because that's in a school setting, and I'm like, perfect. That's another one that, like, my formative teenage years, that movie came out. I think it's 96, maybe.
I was born that year.
Oh boy. Yeah, 1996. I was not. I turned 17 years old that year. And so yeah, The Craft is what we're going to cover next with our guest Delaney, who has her own podcast. I can't think of the name of it right now, but
Two Dumb Witches.
Two Dumb Witches. That's what I thought it was. So Delaney from the Two Dumb Witches podcast will be joining us next week as we discuss The Craft. It's a fun one. It is. It's IMDb has it as a 6.4. It's got some actresses you might recognize, and some you might not. But it's definitely, like, for me, growing up in the 80s and 90s, this is a very 80s or very 90s cast. Okay. Like these faces were very recognizable and very often used in 90s cinema and TV shows and things like that. So we're going to be covering The Craft next week. And then the week after that is Halloween week.
Yes.
So we should probably watch the original Halloween. We talked about it in our first episode. I think that's important that we'll cover that one for Halloween, for the week of Halloween. I actually watched the newest Halloween last night.
Is it like Halloween Ends?
Halloween Ends.
Okay.
It's gotten very divisive reviews online. Everything I've read so far is some people are like, it's trash. It is the worst movie ever. I can't believe they did that. And then there's the other end of the spectrum, and I kind of live on this other end of the spectrum, that are like, I like what they did with it. Mm-hmm. And I've got my reasons why, but I found it good. I did. I can very easily understand why people did not like it, but I think there's a big difference between and I know you haven't seen any of them, but as we watch them, I think the people that didn't like it are Michael Myers fans more than they're Halloween fans, and the people that liked it were more fans of Halloween and the direction, well, not direction, but just the risks it was taking. And okay. like I was telling my wife before we watched it, she fell asleep for like the last half hour, which I felt bad because like that's what everything wraps itself up. But I go, it's not. Everything I've read is it's not a stalk, stab, and that's how virtually all of them are.
Yeah.
And this one's not. And so with that, it changes the narrative a little bit. I can't say it leaves the doors open for more. When you call the movie Halloween Ends, you've got to get rid of something.
Yes.
And really, there's no. Like I told her last night, I go, it'd be very difficult to bring one particular character back.
Okay. Because
of the end of this movie. Like they've tried to get rid of characters before that pop up later. Even Jamie Lee Curtis's character, like, they've gotten rid of before and then brought her back later. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, for what they just showed on screen, I don't know if you're going to bring this back. So, but it was good. I enjoyed it. Have you seen anything outside of the podcast? Have you been watching anything, or you just been too busy?
Honestly, I've just been too busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have played some Criminal Minds in the background while I'm folding laundry or lesson planning, but other than that, no. It's been a horror film or Criminal Minds.
Right. When does volleyball end?
2 weeks. Well, okay. I guess this week is our last season week, and then the week after that is postseason.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think my movie watching is going to really slow down because I start junior high basketball practice tomorrow. So.
Yeah, it will.
That's the devotion of my afternoon today is getting first practice plans ready.
Yep.
But that's that. Hopefully we can entertain and get some of these volleyball players to watch something a little bit scarier than Terrifier.
I know.
I feel bad for them that the scariest movie they've ever seen, they really just meant grossest.
Yes, grossest and most, like, the most startling movie, maybe.
Yeah. And even then, like, there were several, but you could, like you said, you could almost anticipate him coming.
Yes.
Because you know he's lurking around, so you know what's going to happen.
Yep.
But yeah, it's good. It's a good episode, not a good movie. Well, do you have anything to throw out before we sign off?
I don't think so.
Okay, so, well, for Deducation, we've covered Terrifier in week 3. We will be back next week covering The Craft with a special guest. And until then, it's October, so I guess watch some horror films, everybody, and enjoy yourself. And don't stop just because October's over, because we're going to keep doing this week after week after week for the rest of our lives. This is what we're doing. So, all right, well, thanks for coming by and spending some time with us, and I hope you guys all have a good week.
See you later.